Welcome to the deep dive. Get ready, because today we're taking a look into the future of making medicines.
That's right. We're focusing on how digital tech is set to really shake things up in pharmaceutical development over, say, the next decade.
And we're aiming to give you the key takeaways, the important stuff, drawing from, solid research and some real-world examples. Think of it as your shortcut to getting up to speed.
Exactly. No need to get lost in the weeds. Our goal is simple. Pull out the most crucial insights on these digital trends, the innovations, and, well, the long-term impact on how drugs get discovered and developed.
Okay, let's dive in then. One of the first big things, it seems, is how all these different digital tools are starting to work together. It's not just one thing here, one thing there anymore.
Right, it's more of a convergence. And what's really interesting is how tools from, well, outside traditional pharma are becoming so important. Like, think about the Human Genome Project.
Ah, okay, that really laid the groundwork.
It absolutely did. It gave us things like gene chips, microarrays, which let us look at, thousands of gene activities all at once.
Wow.
And similarly, for proteins, we have techniques like two-dimensional electrophoresis combined with mass spectrometry. Gives you a real detailed map of the proteins involved when a drug hits the system.
So it helps understand toxicity, things like that.
Precisely. Understanding those mechanisms at a molecular level.
But I imagine that creates just a ton of data, right? Is that manageable?
Well, that's the catch. The sheer volume of information from these large-scale analyses is, frankly, enormous. Interpreting it, finding the meaningful signals, that's the primary difficulty.
Okay, so you need serious digital power just to make sense of it all.
You absolutely do. Which brings us nicely to the role of computational tools, even in the very early stages, like designing the drug molecules themselves.
You mean like computer-aided design?
Exactly. Things like molecular docking calculations. It's like virtually testing how well a drug candidate might fit its target protein. A bit like trying keys in a lock, but on screen. And then there's QSR, quantitative structure-activity relationship. Methods like CumFO, CumSSE. They use models to predict how tweaking a molecule's structure might affect what it does biologically.
That sounds incredibly useful for speeding things up. Are there, like, concrete examples?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The work on Intel inhibitors for tuberculosis is a good one. They use these kinds of computer-aided approaches, docking and QSR, to figure out which structural features really mattered.
Right.
And that allowed for a more rational design of new candidates, aiming for better potency, maybe fewer side effects, based on the modeling.
So much less trial and error, more intelligent design up front. That makes sense. And you can't talk digital without mentioning AI, artificial intelligence.
No, you really can't. AI's potential here is, well, it's huge, especially for spotting patterns in enormous data sets. Think about global clinical trials, masses of data. AI can help automate that analysis, find subtle trends maybe humans would miss, and basically augment the researcher's ability to make good decisions faster.
Like a superpowered research assistant. Okay, so that's discovery and early design. What about later on in development and manufacturing? I've heard about this quality by design idea.
Yes, quality by design, or QBD, it's a really fundamental shift, actually, moving towards a more science-based, risk-based approach.
Okay, what does that mean in practice? Less testing at the end.
Sort of. It
Oh.
means understanding and controlling the critical factors in the formulation and the manufacturing process that actually impact the final drug quality, building quality in from the start.
Got it. Baking it in, not just inspecting it out. How does digital help with that?
That's where models come in again. Data-driven models, key metric ones like PCA and PLS, are used a lot with analytical data, and especially with PET,
Key.
process analytical technology, basically monitoring quality during the manufacturing process in real time, not just testing the finished pills or vials.
Real-time monitoring. Okay, that sounds like a potential game changer.
It really can be. You can make adjustments on the fly if something starts to drift. But crucially, these models, these chemometric models, they're only as good as the data you feed them.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Yeah. You need high-quality data that really represents all the possible variations you might see during normal operation within your design space.
Okay, robust data is key. And you mentioned models. Are they also used to understand how drugs work in people? Because everyone reacts differently, right?
Exactly. That variability between individuals is critical. And yes, we use mixed effects models quite a bit in clinical pharmacology for that.
Mixed effects models.
Yeah, there's statistical models that help us understand that individual variability. So take a simple pharmacokinetic model, how the body handles a drug. A mixed effects model can help figure out why one person eliminates the drug faster than another, even if they seem similar. It helps refine dosing, understand patient factors.
Fascinating. So you can get a more personalized understanding almost. Okay, let's shift to the studies themselves, preclinical and clinical trials. How is digitalization impacting those?
Well, in preclinical, biomarkers are increasingly used in toxicity screening. They help rank new drug candidates early on based on potential harm signals.
So earlier red flags.
Potentially, yes. And then for clinical trials, especially the big global ones, you just have massive data flows. So sophisticated data management systems, often cloud-based platforms, are absolutely essential. Just organizing it all is a huge task.
I can only imagine coordinating across different countries, different sites.
It's complex. And beyond just management, digital tools are enabling smarter trial designs, like adaptive randomization.
Adaptive, what does that mean?
It means the trial can sort of learn as it goes based on the results coming in. How patients are assigned to different treatment groups can be adjusted.
Oh,
Yeah, you see it in some cancer trials, for example. If one treatment arm is clearly doing better early on, maybe more new patients get assigned to that arm. It can potentially speed things up.
makes sense. But what about the treatments themselves getting more complex? Biologics, gene therapies, AI-designed drugs even?
That's a really important point. These new modalities bring new challenges for monitoring and safety. They might have unique side effects or mechanisms.
Right.
So our safety protocols, our monitoring strategies, they have to keep evolving too. We need robust data, especially on things like immune responses with biologics, to really understand the long-term picture.
Constant adaptation needed. Okay, let's circle back to manufacturing and quality. We mentioned PAT process analytical technology. How does that change things on the factory floor?
It really shifts the focus away from just testing the final product off the line towards building monitoring into the line, using sensors, maybe spectroscopic ones, to check quality attributes continuously in real time.
So you catch problems sooner.
Exactly. Less waste, more consistent quality, faster release. It moves quality control upstream.
And I guess digital helps optimize the process itself too.
Definitely. Statistical experimental design is a powerful tool here. You can systematically test how changing input variables like temperature, feed rate, whatever it is, affects your outputs, like yield or purity.
Like running controlled experiments on the process.
Precisely. Data-driven experimentation to find that sweet spot, the optimal operating conditions for reliable, high-quality production.
Okay. And one last connection linking lab tests to what happens in the body. I think you mentioned IVIVC.
Yes, in vitro, in vivo correlation. It's crucial. It's about finding a predictable link between how a drug performs in a lab test, like how fast a tablet dissolves, the in vitro part, and how it actually gets absorbed and performs in the body, the in vivo part.
How do you model that?
Often with mathematical models, things like differential equations, convolution integrals, they help describe that relationship. If you have a good IVIVC, you can be more confident that your lab tests predict real-world performance.
So it bridges that gap between the lab bench and the patient. Makes sense.
Wow. Okay, so reflecting on all this, digital is really touching every single part of the process, isn't it?
It truly is. From the earliest idea for a molecule through all the testing, the clinical trials, manufacturing, quality control, it's becoming deeply integrated. And the potential benefits are pretty clear: efficiency, better understanding, hopefully faster access to new medicines.
Yeah, the pace of change seems incredible. It really makes you think about what's next, doesn't it? We've talked about AI and data, but looking ahead,
Hmm.
what happens when these tools get even more sophisticated? Could we see, I don't know, AI taking an even more autonomous role in designing drugs or even managing aspects of clinical trials? What might that look like?
That's a really fascinating question to ponder, isn't it? The trajectory certainly points towards more integration, more capability. It definitely raises questions about the future balance between human oversight and machine intelligence in this field. Something to keep an eye on. Definite food for thought. Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Thanks so much for walking us through this complex landscape.
My pleasure. It's certainly a dynamic area, always changing.
And a big thank you to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the future of digital pharma. We hope it gave you a clear picture of these exciting transformations. Join us next time for another deep dive.